AI, Work and Human Identity, Understanding the Emotional Impact of Artificial Intelligence. Episode 4 of 20, What Happens to Your Identity When Your Job Changes? You're listening to the Emotional Intelligence Developer Podcast. This is Episode 4, What Happens to Your Identity When Your Job Changes? Most people think losing or changing a job is mainly a financial problem. And of course, money matters. But there's something else that can happen when your work changes. You can start questioning who you are. Because somewhere along the way, your job can become more than something you do. It can become part of how you introduce yourself, part of how other people see you, part of how you measure your success, and sometimes, part of how you measure your own worth. Think about how quickly we answer the question, what do you do? We usually give someone our job. I'm a manager. I'm an engineer. I'm a teacher. I'm a designer. I'm a driver. I'm a business owner. I'm a nurse. I'm a programmer. It's a simple question. But notice what happens when that answer suddenly changes. You might lose your position. Your industry might change. Your role might be automated. You might be moved into a different department. You might have to learn completely new skills. Or you might decide that the career you've built isn't the career you want anymore. And suddenly, the question becomes more uncomfortable. Who am I now? That's an identity question. And it's one that doesn't always get discussed when we talk about AI and the future of work. We talk about productivity. We talk about salaries. We talk about new skills. We talk about which jobs might disappear. But we don't always talk about what happens psychologically when the work you've built your identity around changes. You might feel embarrassed. You might feel angry. You might feel lost. You might feel like you've gone backwards. And you might even feel jealous of people who seem to have adapted faster than you. None of this means you're weak. It means your work mattered to you. But there's an important distinction you need to make. Your job can be part of your identity without being your entire identity. That's a healthier position. Because if your entire sense of worth depends on your occupation, every career setback becomes a personal crisis. A promotion makes you feel valuable. A rejection makes you feel worthless. A good salary makes you feel successful. A lower salary makes you feel like a failure. A respected job title makes you feel important. Losing that title makes you question yourself. That's a dangerous emotional dependency. Your work can tell you something about your abilities. It can give you purpose. It can give you structure. It can give you relationships and opportunities. But it doesn't determine your entire value as a human being. And this becomes especially important as AI changes the workplace. You may discover that something you were very good at can now be done faster by technology. That can hurt. Don't pretend it doesn't. But instead of immediately asking, what does this say about me? Ask, what does this change require from me? Those are very different questions. The first attacks your identity. The second invites you to adapt. Maybe you need to learn. Maybe you need to change your role. Maybe you need to develop skills that technology doesn't replace easily. Maybe you need to become better at working alongside AI. Maybe you need to move into an entirely different area. And maybe you need to accept that starting again isn't the same as starting from nothing. You carry your experience with you. You carry your judgment. You carry your mistakes. You carry your relationships. You carry your understanding of people. You carry everything you've learned about working, communicating, and solving problems. Those things don't disappear because your job title changes. There's another side to this too. Sometimes the problem isn't that you lost your identity. Sometimes you discover that the identity you built around your career was never really yours. You became the person your workplace needed. You became the person your parents expected you to become. You pursued the job because it sounded successful. You stayed because the salary was good. You kept climbing because everyone told you that was what success looked like. Then something changes. And suddenly you have to ask, did I actually want this life? That can be uncomfortable. But it can also be useful. Because a career change can force you to examine parts of yourself that you haven't questioned for years. What do you actually value? What kind of work gives you energy? What kind of environment brings out your best? What are you good at? What are you willing to learn? What are you no longer willing to tolerate? Those are emotional intelligence questions. Self-awareness becomes extremely valuable when the external structure of your life starts changing. And that's the bigger lesson. You don't build a stable identity by making sure nothing in your career ever changes. You build a stable identity by knowing yourself well enough to adapt when it does. Your job can change. Your industry can change. Your responsibilities can change. Technology can change. Your income can change. But your ability to understand yourself can keep developing. That's something worth investing in. So if your work is changing, don't only ask what you're going to lose. Ask what you're going to learn. Don't only ask whether your old skills still matter. Ask what those skills can become when you combine them with new ones. And don't measure your entire worth by what appears on your payslip or business card. You're a person before you are a job title. If you want to explore that further, visit Emotional Intelligence Developer and use the free well-being tools, quizzes, and resources available on the website. They can help you develop self-awareness, confidence, emotional resilience, and a better understanding of how your emotions influence the way you respond to change. Because when your job changes, the goal isn't to protect an old version of yourself forever. It's to understand who you are well enough to build the next version deliberately. This has been episode 4 of 20 in AI, Work and Human Identity, Understanding the Emotional Impact of Artificial Intelligence from the Emotional Intelligence Developer Podcast. Continue with the series as we explore AI, work, confidence, identity, and the emotional challenges of adapting to a changing world. And remember, your job can change without your value disappearing.